Samantha is still getting torched for her bad psychology essay, and I have found here Forrest Valkai's channel. He does a very definitive takedown of this essay. Beyond thorough, I would say a little bit hard on a junior college student, but let's watch a little bit.
What does it have to do with the article? This is not a serious essay, you're just preaching. Now, Samantha, the term academic consensus means something is a shared opinion amongst most qualified experts in a particular field. So, for example, the theory of evolution in my field isn't just something that we all agree upon to fit in. It's something that has so much evidence and meets the burden of proof in such a monumental way that almost all experts around the world agree on it, and anyone who doesn't has a ton of work to do to be taken seriously. So for you to say all this stuff that goes against the academic consensus without even considering ways that you could possibly be wrong is a really bad look for someone who wants to make it in higher education. Got it? Okay. Samantha then takes a massive turn into something that she clearly just heard in church recently and decided needed to be in this essay. It's also the only time that she directly mentions the Bible. But again, it's not a citation. She just says, this is in the Bible and this is what it means, with no references whatsoever. In Genesis, God says that it is not good for man to be alone. So he created a helper for man, which is a woman. Many people assume the word helper in this context to be condescending and offensive to women. However, the original word in Hebrew is ezer kenegdo, which directly translates to helper equal to. Additionally, God describes himself in the Bible using ezer kenegdo, or helper, and he describes his Holy Spirit as our helper as well. This shows the importance God places on the role of the helper, women's roles. So now we're just doing a Bible study. She's referring to Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, by the way, but as I said before, there are no citations in this essay, so anybody who isn't familiar with the Bible wouldn't know that. And there are also no references for her proposed translation of the word helper, and the words in Hebrew aren't even written in Hebrew. They're just phoneticized into English, so it's really difficult to fact check her, especially considering the fact that I am neither an expert on the Bible, nor am I trained in classical Hebrew.
Okay, let's pause there for a minute. The Hebrew phrase was ezer kenegdo. I don't know how to pronounce it either. And Samantha's essay says it means a helper equal to. So she's trying to read a kind of equality into this verse, which is about Adam's helper. Let's do something real quick here. Here we have Bible Gateway. We have a ton of different translations of this verse. If you were to scroll down with me, the last part of the verse says, I will make him a helper, meet for him. I will make him a helper, meet for him. A counterpart who is suitable and complementary for him. I will make him a helper, suitable. I will make him an help, meet for him. I will make him a helper, corresponding to him, perfect for him, suitable for helping him, helpmate, his like unto himself, just right for him, suitable partner for him, helper fit for him. You're getting the idea, right? I could go on and on. It's about a helper for him. The verse is not trying to say anything about equality, rights, status. If you want that kind of an endorsement from the Bible, I think you can find it, but I don't think you can find it in this verse. The verse is just about, I'm going to make a helper for him. Who is that helper? At this point, still an open question. Let's go back to see what Forrest says.
So I asked somebody who's both of those things to help. Hey, Justin!
Oh, sorry, it's already started. I apologize. I thought you were explaining.
No, that's great.
I'm so sorry. So my background is in biblical studies. I've got a BA from Bethel University, although when I was there, it was called Bethel College. And then I've got a Master's of Divinity from Ashland Seminary. And hopefully, fingers crossed, in the near future, I'll be able to start some PhD work. But that being said, my primary focus in Pelican Seminary was the Hebrew Bible, and I even take a little bit of Acadian languages. So I love digging into the Hebrew text a little bit. I understand that it's an archaic language, and for those who may not be familiar with language, you might find a resource online that talks about the meaning of a particular phrase. It might be convincing to you. However, on this particular issue, I think Vanelli probably found some resources that were, let's say, stretching the truth a little bit. It wasn't an outright lie. We'll say that. But as I got into it, I think it's more complicated than what she wants it to be, and it doesn't really mean what she thinks it does.
So while we're talking about what she wants to be and what it may or may not mean, the major overarching claim here is that the original Hebrew word for helper in the Bible is ezer kenegdo. Who knows if I'm saying that right? And then the two big claims that Samantha makes are that, number one, that literally means a helper equal to somebody else, namely, man in this case. And the second part is that implies that God intended for men and women to be completely equal, and that he doesn't view one as more or less significant than the other. In your opinion, do either of those claims hold water?
I think the first claim is necessarily stretched. So, for example, ezer, we know, is a kind of a generic word for a helper. It can be used in all kinds of contexts. It could be used in war. It could be used in household duties. A helper is somebody who lends assistance to another. Now, the next word is a more complicated word, and if you're looking in a Hebrew lexicon, you're not going to find kenegdo in the Hebrew lexicon. So there's a couple things happening with the conjugation. The root word is going to be neged, and neged is it's a generic word. It typically just means opposite, next to. It could even mean in the presence of. We find that quite often, or it could be the direction of something. It's more or less connotating location, typically, referring to location. However, what we find at the beginning of the word is a relative particle that means like or as. So when you add the key in front of it, so it's ki negedo is actually a modified word. The key in front of it means like as, it's forming a relationship to something. And then the very last syllable, the O, that's not part of the root word either. That's a pronoun. That means to him or of him or something of his or like him. So the way this would more properly read would be a helper like opposite of him, or like similar to him would be another way to say it, or like a counterpart to him. So what's being referenced here is there's something similar to Adam that this helper is going to be. And I think it's kind of clear in the text when you read through it, because in Genesis 2, who does he look for to find a helper first? He first looks to the animals. God says to look from the animals for a helper, and he doesn't find anyone suitable. And then we find in verse 20 that because he couldn't find a suitable helper, using the same phraseology as in verse 18, among the animals, God decided to make the woman. So what this means is, initially speaking, God literally believed that the animals could be a counterpart for Adam, which means the woman here is only one step above the cattle in the story. She's certainly not equal to Adam.
It's
One step above cattle. What I notice here is they've got a certain disdain here for the animals, don't they? We don't want women to be just one mere step above cattle. That makes sense. Wait a minute. Forrest here is an expert biologist. He's an evolutionist. What is his positive case for women being above cattle? Because isn't it just a countable, finite number of generations in the past that we were one with the cattle? That you could literally say, my great, 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 etc., grandpa, well, he had a rift with his brothers, and they went on to become cattle, and we went on to become humans. Am I using the word literally correctly in this case? That is literally what he believes. But somehow we're at a point now where women should be far above cattle. And note, the Bible does meet this minimum bar. Let's call it a first base towards equality. The Bible, as they admit, puts women a step above cattle. But they don't seem to have that. We're cousins with cattle in their view. Let alone women, men, all of us. We're not a step above cattle. We're just a different branch.